All right, hey everybody, Vinny Fisher here, back with another episode of Total CEO. Guys, have you thought about this idea that you are continually building out your skill set? You're recognized out there, you've made some significance, but you don't really seem to be leveraging the monetization or the ultimate value out of either your expertise or the things you do for people. And it seems like it's this continuing wheel that if you don't put more time in, you don't get more out of it. Well, I'll tell you, if that's how you think, and I think a lot like that, we all get stuck in that trap, you're going to love our guest today. I'd like to first thank Peter Winick for being on the show. Peter, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
That's great. Hey, so Peter, I want to talk to you about that wonderful little intro I gave you. This idea that we have, authors, speakers, CEOs of good businesses, consultancies, which is half of our company, where we're out there doing this awesome stuff, right? We're writing books like crazy. We're doing all these things. We're really amazing. But my margin or my revenue monetization on all this awesome stuff is like this thing. I always joke and say to my clients that like my sister, a few people, and my wife know me, and then the 7 people I work with love me. But how do I, one, drive deeper the revenue in that community I'm in, and then continue to ever expand on that community? And so I just think our audience, our community is going to love hearing from you today. And so could you give a good 30-second soundbite about Peter and who you are?
Yeah, so let me just first respond to what you said. If you can fit your entire tribe in a minivan, you're not going to go too far, right? So that's typically a problem. So I am the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. We're a specialty boutique consulting firm. We work exclusively with authors, speakers, and thought leaders that have content that has a business application that they're looking to scale and grow. And oftentimes the common denominator across our client base is getting folks to move from a practice where you get paid as the individual, as the thought leader, as the creator, to both create and deliver the content, which is incredibly limiting, versus you have a business where you are monetizing that IP in a wide variety of ways. And a practice isn't a bad thing. I mean, attorneys and prostitutes are basically running practices, right? So it's a business model that works.
You equated me, my lawyer, to a prostitute. By the way, I've heard that before, but thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No offense to the prostitute.
Oh, once again, someone brings in a wonderful lawyer joke into my life. So thank you for that. All right. So that's awesome. So if I wanted to troll and look at your stuff while we're communicating and listening to you and watching you, where would I go?
ThoughtLeadershipLeverage.com.
ThoughtLeadershipLeverage.com. And if I wanted to get in touch with you, is the best way to just go to the contact section? I've got more than 7 people that know me. What's the hardest part? How do you help? First off, a lot of people who are authors, speakers, and thought leaders tend to be higher, have a personality set or a certain way they are. How do you get them to first recognize, to raise their hand that they're missing out on a lot of the monetization of their business? Like, how does that part start?
Yeah, so you have to separate the ego side of it from the business side of it. So, a lot of my clients are professional speakers. So imagine the typical day in the life of a professional speaker. You fly first class to Scottsdale, not in July, maybe it's February, right?
Hopefully.
You're treated like royalty.
Yep.
Your working day is somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep.
And it ends in a standing ovation. Like, oh, okay. Eventually that's probably going to get to your head, right? Like there are a lot of accountants out there who do good work and consultants producing great decks. They don't end in standing ovation. So there's the ego piece of this, which is, some of that's healthy. Some of that is part of the brand that people are buying. But then there's the business side that says, if you're in Scottsdale today and you're speaking and you made a lot of money speaking, that's fantastic. But there's lots of other things that can be happening simultaneous to that can generate more cash, more money for you. Let's talk about the business, because it's not that very few people actually make a living as an author, meaning only the money that comes in from a book.
Is that like literally less than a percentage point, right? It's like probably ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean the statistics are incredibly depressing. It's a good news, bad news thing. So because the gatekeepers aren't controlling the gates, the Random Houses and the Wileys and all that, everybody and their mother's an author, right? So, so what that means is the competition has gone up. There's a lot of noise and not a lot of signals. So what the Random Houses of the world used to do theoretically was filter things out and sort of decrapify, right?
Yeah.
Stuff. So at least when you got a book in your hand, there was a certain standard. There probably weren't typos. It was probably vetted against 8 others in that category.
Right, the editorial process helped us in readership quality, right?
Yeah. So here's the math. The average business books, I don't know anything other than business books or cookbooks, health books, whatever that might be different.
Yeah, let's stay in our sweet spot. Yeah. That's where I am too.
Sells over the course of its life, and a book has a pretty long shelf life, right? Under 2,000 copies. So pretty depressing, right? So I did an event last year at a business book award event that was wrapped around the the Publishers Expo.
Yeah.
And I had a room of 50 people that just won bronze, silver, or gold for business books. So these are not stupid people, smart people, high quality books.
Yeah, right.
And they won. And I said to them, well, if you think about the 6 months before the book came out and the couple of months after that, let's call it a year, pre and post, what percentage of your time did you invest in the creating, the marketing, the deploying of that book? And the number was something like 70, 75%. And I kind of figured that's what it would be. And then I said, okay, great. So what percent of your income came directly from book sales? And it was like 5%. So I said, so that means, could I pay you 5% of your income and get 75% of your time? Why would you take that deal? And they sort of looked at me like, okay, this is really not going to be fun. And the reason I was sort of blunt about that is you're not going to make the money directly on book sales unless, you ran for vice president or
something to prime the pump that got the book moving, right? And that the odds are very stacked against you that happens.
Yeah. So the book is the entry point. The book is the $20 movie ticket to come into your world. And then the question is, what is the journey that you want a specific population to take once they go, wow.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree with you, Peter, in the sense that I actually don't even think of it like the movie ticket. Since you and I are in the business world, this book, I'm thankful, CEO's Mindset's moved, I think I've got 10,000 copies out the door.
Yep.
It's a business card.
Yeah.
It maybe even from our sense, it's like, it's all, I can get into a long rambling story about that, but this is the entry point, is your point.
Yeah, right? No, but there's the business card, which is one value, because if I'm someone looking to buy your services, I'm talking to 3 people similar to you. That's the tiebreaker. Like, oh, he wrote a book. He must be smarter than the other guy.
Right.
Or at least I have something that I can pass to someone else.
And I can also see what he stands for. There's some credibility. If I just want to read the front and back cover, which is what everyone only does, no one reads anymore, Peter. And so then oh gosh, no one reads, man. I joke. I have a business group and I give them my books as part of being part of the group. And I always ask who read it. And it's like one guy raises his hand that he made it to the end.
But the other side where people fail to be strategic and thoughtful is when I write this book, if you're just selling straight up consulting services, it's just a business card, right? I'm smarter than the next guy. I got the book, whatever. But where you get really thoughtful is to say, if people dig this book, what else do we want them to do? Oh, we have assessment tools. We have video-enabled learning systems. We could license content. We've whatever the thing. And that path needs to be really clear to them, because I'm a busy guy. I'm not going to stay up late at night, even if I loved your book, trying to figure out how to put my money in your pocket. That's your job.
Amen there, man. That's like requires almost you to repeat that. Like the consumer is not going to be begging to give you money.
Yeah, and it's a field of dreams mentality that I see a lot, where I'll talk to really smart people that, their book's coming out in a month, which is not the time to be thinking about that. It's way before. So what's the plan? Well, a PR person's going to do this, and magic and fairy tales, and angels are going to come, and then what's going to happen? People are just going to mail you money like a telephone. Like, okay, be really clear with me. What do you expect people to do when they get that book? What is the pain point you're hitting? What's the oh crap moment that they've got? Oh my God, I got to email this guy right now. My place is on fire and he's got water. Let's go. And then once you talk to them, is it blah, 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 or is it like, okay, this is exactly how we start with an organization like yours. First we do this, and then we do this.
All right, cool. So let's talk a little bit about that, but I want to help people for a second. So this isn't just for someone. The knee-jerk reaction isn't like I blew this book because I didn't do a launch strategy. That can start with a good book even after you've brought it to the marketplace. Like, right? I've seen guys like, oh, do I have to rewrite a new book?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So a lot of people, the book industrial complex, if you will, the old school New York publishers and the PR people and whatever, they treat books like a fish, where if it doesn't do something in 3 days, it's going to smell bad. Most books, unless you're writing about this year's World Series or something silly like that, have a shelf life of at least 3 to 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So the question becomes, to your point, if I did a book 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, and I didn't get the returns that I wanted on, or I'm just learning about this now, what do I do? Well, what you do is the opposite of what most PR firms tell you to do, is you go backwards and you say, wait a minute, who are the markets I want to serve with a super duper high level of specificity? Who are the 100 people that if I got this book in their hands, it could change my business life, and get the damn book in their hands? It's not that hard to do.
And so what are some of the things like, and I think that's great, because I think there's so many people who think, oh, I screwed up my launch. I ruined my book. Let's go make version 2.0 of the book. And it's like, I kind of believe a book like is earned. You just don't write it. Like it's earned through the good books are earned, right? You just don't write one. You're good at something and they come out of you, right? And so after all that time, if you blew being a good marketer or promoter, it doesn't suddenly make the book suck. It just means you're not a good promoter. We got to get someone like Peter in our life who helps us monetize the book. So what's one of the first things you do when you've got someone who's got a quality product? Like what are some of the first things right out of the gate you help them recognize, monetize value in an ecosystem to kind of start?
Yeah, so quality is a vague term. I think what people don't do enough of early on is really, let me back up a little bit. You're a smart business guy. I'm a semi-smart business guy, right? If we decided...
it could be reversed, Peter. Let's go.
Yeah, depending on the... Whatever. Just play with me here, right? All right? So if one of us decided today we were going to open a pizza shop in our local town, there's some standard things we would do. How does the pizza industry work? What does my location matter? What are the standard margins? How would I differentiate? What's my pricing going to be? Insurance, like all these sort of things. How would I market this, right? Is there a need for a new pizza shop in my town? We would do just basic business common sense. And then we would make, I'm going to specialize in gluten-free pizza near the university, and I'm going to price it real low and be high volume and open late. Okay, that's cool. Got it. Makes sense. What happens in this space, in the content business, most people don't make a predetermined decision to say, I am going to be in the content business, and this is what I'm going to do. They're doing something, and then they get pulled, and then they write a book, and then somebody wants them to speak, and then it happens. So going back to your question around the book, the first thing that you need to do is figure out who will pay the most for what you have to offer, right? So content is general, typically. So if you think broadly, most of the
What if they don't know that? What if they don't really know?
Don't do it. Then you shouldn't. Then don't do it.
What if they already did it?
Well, then do it forensically. So let's say you wrote a decent book on leadership, management, sales, negotiate, whatever.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pick on the less quality. Let's pick on me, right? I wrote a book. It's a good book. It got some.
First, we have to teach you how to do product placement, because I've only seen the book 7 times in 8 minutes. That's fantastic. Why don't you have a t-shirt? So hold up the book. So let's do it.
It's just sitting on my desk and saying, this is what you do. Hey, I don't care. I mean, the reality is you're awesome at this. I can see it already. It's like, but I see so many people in our life who have written something now. It used to be before that people are like, oh, I need to write a book. Now I'm like,
let's do your book in real time. Oh, let me see the cover again. Because so the CEO mindset, how to break through to the next level. Okay. CEOs to the CEOs. Cool. Okay. So let's go back. So the people that I'm assuming that book has the most value to are CEOs. Too broad, right? So
too broad.
Yeah. So CEOs of high growth, is it people that are in EO, YPO, Vista? So who are they? For
us, it's actually in this case, they're digitally based businesses, right? Because our expertise was direct response and digitally based businesses.
So these are people on Infusionsoft and internet marketers and blah 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 blah, right?
Yeah, or e-commerce companies that Yep.
So let's get a list of 100 of those people that could be clients of yours, right?
Yep.
And for the cost of mailing 100 books, which is what, $8 a book, stupid, whatever.
$2 if you go to
whatever.
it's cheap.
Let's be thoughtful and let's be smart and write a customized letter to each of 50 or 100 people. Dear Peter, I did some homework and looked at your site, your business, your whatever. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. And I wrote this book specifically for people like you. Here's what my clients say about me. They're great. They're wonderful. They're this. Love to talk to you for 20 minutes to see how we could, what I could do to serve you better. And human nature being what it is, if you give me a gift, unless I'm a jerk, so that book winds up on my desk. If I throw it in the trash, and then you send me an email or call me and be like, oh, man, the guy gave me a gift. I got to spend 10 minutes with him, right?
Yeah, the law of reciprocity says I almost have to call him back, right?
Yeah. And particularly if it's not spammy, if you just spend 5 minutes going, okay, what are 3 or 4 bullets I can throw in this email or this letter? that
because probably sticking it in an envelope, since I went out of my way to get the book, sticking it in the $2 packaged envelope is certainly a far better move than just drop a LinkedIn email to somebody, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get that. Like, how many of those do you get a day versus how many books do you get a month?
Right. Like none, right? Or one, right?
Yeah.
You're right. It is that kind of ratio.
So it's targeted campaigns. So you also might say, like right now it's digital companies, et cetera. You might decide in 6 months from now that it's those type of companies that are based in South America. Who knows, right?
Yeah, right. So you can be geographic about it too. Gotcha.
Right. I'm the big American rock star. I want to expand my practice into Brazil, and I track you and about a dozen other people that I'm really interested in working with.
What is the client most afraid of? Because the plan makes a lot of sense. What's the hardest resistance point you have to fight through right early on with the client after they start getting what you're saying to them?
I think there's two things. One is execution, right? Because a lot of them are.
Who's going to do it?
Yeah, creative ADD. If you can't figure out how to get 100 books out and do that, you probably shouldn't be in business, quite frankly, right? So who's going to do it? Or
I think people have lost their mind about the hard grind of the first 250 customers. It's still the old pick up the phone, stick something in the mail. Yeah, the first 250 customers should come from the grind of hard work. Efficiency, growth, and scale is the privilege of getting the first part done, right?
Exactly. And then you get some flywheel benefits. So that's the first piece.
Yep.
Is
get your book out there a little bit.
Is who's going to get it done. And then the second piece, which is really interesting,
yep,
is a lot of my clients are, all of my clients are incredibly smart, best in class of what they do.
Awesome.
But a lot of them do the sort of sales and marketing thing. They get the heebie-jeebies.
All my doctor clients back in my law practice. What do you mean? I have to actually market myself?
Yeah, right. Like lawyers are a great example. No, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and marketing's for whatever.
So it's this idea of they're lowering their professionalism because now they have to self-promote.
It's a little bit of lowering the professionalism, or more often it is a total unknown. So for example, I deal with a lot of clients that are what I call elite academics. So there are places like Wharton, Yale, London School of Business.
Right.
These are not market. Even those that are academics in the marketing space don't market themselves. So it's just like, it's not.
I don't know what to do. So they're better off acting like I know I'm not doing any of it because I don't even have an idea how to do it right.
Well, and because they're brilliant, and they're adults and they're mature, and they've gotten to be incredibly successful without developing those skills and capabilities. They didn't exactly want to start learning how to do that now. So it doesn't mean they have to do it all, but it needs to be done.
Right. And so which one tends to be the harder one? The execution of doing it or the fear of not understanding how to promote?
The execution is actually quite simple. I mean, that's just project management. Yep. I think it's either the fear or this mindset that moves into, well, I don't, so far all the success in my life has come from me being this
without doing any of that.
Book and people call me and they invite me and they pay me a lot of money and now I have to go begging. Well, sales is not begging.
So you have to go deal with the field of dreams and consultative versus sales type stuff. And that's the demon you're fighting on.
Yeah.
That makes sense, man. So how long is that journey usually? Is it a couple weeks? Is it a couple meetings? How do you get out? Where do you see yourself breaking through some of that? And do you have to go to other team members sometimes to get back at them?
Yeah. So I think at the intellectual level, people get it really quick. So they'll say, makes total sense. I get it. Yep. So then it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? Right? So oftentimes the best answer is they don't do anything about it. They outsource that. They either bring a resource on internally that's tasked with doing that, or we'll work with them to do it or whatever. So
are you guys a complete shop? You'll not only give the advice and the roadmap, but you actually can be the executor if need be?
Yeah, we go from what I call the back of the envelope. I mean, everybody, I see your whiteboard there. Everybody loves to whiteboard, right? And we all get high on the markers and think everything that we whiteboard is the most brilliant. It doesn't mean fill in your whatever. It doesn't mean anything until you're signing your name on the back of a check.
Hey, buddy, listen, I'll tell you, power has two parts to the equation. I can tell you now you're going to be buds. Knowledge and execution. And if each one of them are missing, you have no power.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. That the ability to take an idea all the way through to execution. So what I say is, depending on who the person is, listen, your time may be best used creating the great stuff, doing the research, continuing to do what you've got there. And let's look at you now holistically and organizationally and say, what are the muscles that need to be developed, right? So you go to the gym and one day you do abs, and one day you do, your chest, and one day you do your legs. It's like, okay, your legs are pretty weak. Like, we organizationally, what are we going to do about that? And it could be, I will develop those, or I will develop those in my organization, which is probably the better way to do it. Because most people don't wake up one day at 50 and decide, now I'd like to be an excellent salesperson or marketer.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Well, I mean, you're right. There's been some unicorns out there, but for the most part, they're either in that or not. And so, well, how does it work with you, Peter? So, can someone have the ability to come in, have you help design strategy, the roadmap, and bring a team member along to be trained, and or also have you guys do it with someone along the way, understanding that they're going to retire you from that process all the way to you just keep doing everything? Talk to me about where you are.
Yeah, so let me answer that in two ways. So there's four things that we do at the end of the day. Number one, and this is critical, is we build strategies and develop strategies. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm already doing social media. I'm like, okay, that's a tactic.
I already have a mission and a goal. I already got that. I got strategy down.
There's developing a very clear strategy. Then it's developing the brand and the platform to support that strategy. Because oftentimes the person's brand is their name and I can do 38 things. And it's like, again, I'm busy. I don't have time to decoder ring. I need to know you're the X guy. What's the one thing that you do better than anybody else? And if there's 38 other things that you do, that's cool. But, I'm going in the spice drawer for pepper. I don't
need one thing.
Yeah, one thing, bang, right? So you got to build the brand and the platform. Then you have to build products, offerings, and solutions that are derived from that intellectual property. And then you have to build business. That's what we do. We take it all the way through. Not all of our clients go all the way through with us. Some will just do the strategy. They'll do the implementation. Some will do the strategy and the branding and the product development, and they'll do the.
And what I've learned, and not only in our businesses, but you leading with, hey, we'll come in and just provide you the strategy and help you diagnose and allow you to run with it, is less threatening, because now I don't feel like I'm into you forever, right? And that probably allows you to then have other stuff and credibility, become the trusted advisor, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So our first engagement with a client is a relatively short 6-week engagement around either strategy or enterprise readiness, because to your point, showing up on the first date with the moving truck, a little intrusive. So it's really clearly defined. Here's what you're going to get.
Can you imagine if I went to go try to marry my wife on the first date? I mean, really?
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of consultants do that because we get so excited. Consultancies do that because we're so excited and we see all the things that we can do for the client. But it's like, dude, I just met you. Like, put some points on the board, and let's. We also have to build a relationship, because there have been folks that we've worked with on the strategic side where I just wake up and go, you know what? I don't want to work with, I don't want that to be a long-term client. That person's a pain in the whatever.
So you get the privilege over those 6 weeks to kind of figure some of that out as well.
Yeah, and they're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, right.
That's not my cup of tea.
The trusted advisor thing comes over maturation of the relationship, not off because I told you how awesome I am. Right?
So I have to take advantage of that opportunity. So Trusted Advisor was written by a guy named Charlie Green, who's been a client.
Yeah. Charlie's great. Yep. But I mean, he didn't own that term. It came from the Bible, right? Being someone's trusted advisor has been around forever. It's a coveted position to be in. He just decided to write a book. But the point is, every industry has somebody's trusted advisor.
Yeah.
And for you to be that in the ecosystem of thought leadership from a standpoint of helping authors and speakers, or you pick that 6 weeks plan helps you get there.
Yeah. And there's a sensitivity to, if I'm dealing with someone that's written 5 books and been doing whatever for 25 years, that's their baby, right? So when you start getting in there, it's pretty intimate to say, geez, your kid has some really big ears. That's a problem, or your idea that you thought was so brilliant. Here's 3 new books that have been out on that really took that to a different place, and it's a little dated, and somebody needs to give them the honest truth to say, wow, that is awesome or it's not as awesome as you think, or the reason you only sold 400 copies of your book is because it sucks, right? Somebody's, we can't be helpul to our clients if we can't be honest.
Yeah, it's a waste of time not to be honest to our people. That's awesome. What do you find, what's the biggest struggle you're having in your business?
Biggest struggle in our business. We're going through yet another growth spurt, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's making sure that we're delivering with integrity, serving our clients in the best way that we can, not falling into the trap of bringing them in and then, somebody 5 levels below serving them at a level that's different than what they expect.
So you're working through service dilution a little bit, right? That kind of idea. I'm talking about as you grow, right? It's natural. I mean, I'm not being offensive. It's the reality of everybody's company that grows.
So I think it's about, I tend to be aggressive. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I'd work 24 hours a day because it's fun, whatever. But it's making sure that operationally we're handling it, that we're cultivating the people on the team and growing them. And it's not, this isn't the type of work where you just hire somebody to, turn lug nuts. It takes a while to develop people.
So as the CEO, you're the CEO, you founded this idea. Great idea, by the way. I'm sure,
Thanks.
I mean, there's such a high need here that I'm sure you're not having a hard time with good quality clients. What's the hardest part of the day for you as the CEO of the business?
The hardest part of the day?
I don't mean like every day. I mean, the hardest part in what you're doing in the toil of the thing you set out to make this amazing thing. Where are you finding the hardest challenge right now?
It's making sure, and I don't even know it's hard, but it's making sure that we're always in tune with what's going on from what are the best practices from a marketing perspective that are not dilutive to the brand, because we're dealing with very, very high level people and we're very disciplined to say no when folks come to us and say, oh, do this as a $99 online, whatever. I'm like, not doing it. I'm dealing with CEOs of Fortune 500s. It's like playing the long game and not being short-term opportunistic, because we're not going anywhere. If our objective was to make only as much money as we can in the next 6 months, maybe there's things we would do differently, but this is the long game for us.
Yeah, totally get it. All right. So we're talking to Peter Winick, who is the CEO and founder of ThoughtLeadershipLeverage.com. And if you love what you're hearing, by the way, this has been awesome, Peter. If you do love this like much as I have, I do this show because it helps me more than anybody else. And we just hope someone out there got 1/10 of the value that I'm getting. And I'm confident they will. Well, if you are, you just go to ThoughtLeadershipLeverage.com and there's a system in there that you can find good old Peter and his people. And so that's great. What can our community help you with? What do you want the most right now?
What do I want the most right now? I just want to, our business grows from A, referrals, and then B, social, right? So people find out about us. So we're looking to always deal with high quality clients that we can have an impact and make a material difference on their business.
So because you work with such like people who are wanting notoriety, I always love that word, right? They want the awareness of them to continue to grow and feed their system. How are some people hesitant to be like, oh, I had to go use Peter to make me awesome, and they don't want to like shine the fact of being do you know the question?
Yeah, it's a great point, because there's I think that may have used to be a problem a long time ago, and now it is, and this will sound somewhat
self-serving,
conceited, whatever. But there's a little bit of bragging rights of, I have more people coming to me saying, do I meet the standards of someone that should be your client because you've worked with blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I'm happy to tell people when they're not. But I think people, if I were to, actually take my golf game seriously, I'd love to work with someone that's worked with champs. We work with a lot of champs, Yeah,
I love that. That's really cool. All right, cool. Well, we are nearing the end of a wonderful show. This has really been good, man. I don't mean to keep bloating about that, but people struggle with putting this type of structure in place. They believe this field of dreams thing you talked about. I hope I can help you bang this drum more and more and more. And I'm confident this show will be a popular one that we're going to be redoing.
Cool.
Appreciate the time today, man.
Thanks for having me.
One thing, what I love to leave our show with sometimes is, someone's a little afraid, raise their hand. They're maybe still working on ego. What's the first thing you'd encourage them to do after hearing what's out there? They're like interested, but it's not about necessarily calling you, but what's the first step you tell a thought leader, an author, a speaker, a CEO that's dynamic? What's the first thing you tell them to go do?
I think it's to be honest with themselves, interested, and say, okay, make a list. Here's the things I love about my current life. I'm recognized as being an expert. I speak. I'm acknowledged in my field. I'm making a nice living, whatever. And then think about, 3 years from now, what would you like to achieve? And do you think you're going to get there doing what you're doing? Or is your life 3 years from now going to look exactly the same? And are you going to be satisfied with that? I have a lot of clients that are incredibly successful as speakers.
Yeah.
And they're doing 80 gigs a year, 100 gigs a year, but it's exhausting. So most people don't feel bad for people making, $30,000 an hour, but it's actually not sustainable. It's exhausting, unhealthy personally. And it's like, okay, but you get caught in this
rat race.
And you got to say, okay, well, what can I do to transition from this that served me well for a long time to something else? I don't know what that is yet, but at least.
So does it help to help them think about, it's an add-on instead of a removal? Because it seems scary to me when you're like,
it's not binary. So it's not, I will no longer speak as of January 1 and I will only do something else that's unknown, right?
Yep.
It's okay. How do we transition to taking you from, let's say, 100 speeches a year to 30, and you're making the same or more money and reaching more people and
having a better impact, right?
Yeah. Cool. And a lot of them is, I've mastered this, right? But there's 8 other types of businesses in the content business I don't know anything about. Do I know anything about the tools business, about licensing?
Right.
There's so much you can do right now. And it's I've never met anyone that's an ace in all of them that's also creating content. So for me, it's awesome because I'm not, that's why I don't have to create content. My expertise is in knowing the market and how to put great content into the market.
Yeah, let them be the expert. You're just helping to put monetization into their expertise. I love that. Great. Exactly. Peter, it's been a great show, man. Thanks for coming on today.
I